Hello and welcome to episode 33 of Anne and Steve Talk Stuff, where an artist and economist walk into a podcast and things happen. It's episode 33, Stephen.
33, very interesting number, 33.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, of course, there's all of that. There's all that stuff in, Thomas Kinsella's Another September.
Mm-hmm.
That whole idea about, making it past the age of Christ and all that.
Yes.
And it sort of, at least in Thomas Kinsella's mind anyway, he's staring at himself in the mirror in that poem, and he's sort of looking at himself going, oh,
yes,
this is, weird, so there's all of that, I actually love the opening part of that poem, dreams fled away, this country bedroom raw, with the touch of the dawn, wrapped in a minor piece. Like, where would you get it? Like,
it's very
where would you get it?
That's one where he's shaving, is it?
He's shaving, yeah. He's staring at himself and going, Jesus, lad, you're old. And then he kind of knocked a poem out of it, which is awesome. Yeah, there's a certain, it's great. It's great. But you know what? There's a fierce bang of Heaney envy off that poem. I remember there's another line, and it's like, exhale rough sweetness against the starry slates. And like, that's pure Heaney, like, rough loam rips from the ground, and you're like, haha, everyone trying to be famous Seamus.
Well, there's worse people you could be, I suppose.
That's fair. That's a fair point. That's absolutely fair.
Well, I on a much I know I meant to be the artist in this equation, but of course, what comes into my head when I think of, when I do that Irish terrible pronunciation of 33 without the third, I kept thinking of all this week the whole Wild Mountain Thyme trailer and the Irish accent thing.
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you, I'm totally watching that film.
I think everyone is.
The entire country is gonna watch it just to hate it.
Like a good old hate watch.
I have to say, I love romantic comedies. Like, I love them, and I will stack them up to watch them, because like there's so much grim stuff going on. Like I just the only thing I go for at the end of a day is just I go for the most mindless stuff.
Well, I think this is pretty mindless, definitely.
Oh yeah, no, this is nobody's gonna be like, and the Oscar goes to Emma Blunt or whatever.
Well, and it's funny, I absolutely adore Emily Blunt. I'd watch her in anything. She's brilliant. And Christopher Walken, but dear sweet Jesus, like the biggest crime lies with I don't know, like anyone listening to this, if you have ever watched an online YouTube tutorial given generally by English people or American people of how to do an Irish accent, and it is what is wrong with the world. It is the problem, because they don't talk.
That's the problem.
That is the problem, because they don't consult a proper, accent coach. They just say this is an Irish accent, and you and I both know, like within the county of Limerick alone, there's 10 accents, but you can still hit a healthy enough generic accent. And there's this one, she's like, okay, today we're doing an Irish accent. And so the most important thing in an Irish accent is oi. Like Ireland. Oil. And she keeps saying the word oil because that's our second word. And then she basically has the sentence, I'll be having some of that oil. It's like nobody has ever said that sentence before you. And this other guy, an English fella, has a whole thing. He's like, so we're doing an Irish accent today, and you talk like you've a little bubble in the front of your mouth, a bubble. So I don't know what they have been smoking or what, but unfortunately, I feel these are consulted religiously by Hollywood, because that's what every Irish accent sounds like. This, and
then you find some beautiful accents. So in Normal People, Daisy Edgar Jones, when I'd never heard of her before, that show, and I was genuinely shocked to find out that she was English.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, what? No, because her accent was perfect. I would have said this lady is born in Sligo. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Or in the show Preacher, there's a UK I forgot the actor's name, but he does. It's nowhere near as good, but it's passable generic Irish. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not. You can't say, oh, that guy's clearly from Dublin or whatever. You
You
know.
know, one of the best Irish accents, like it was very specifically done. Did you ever see the film About Adam?
No.
Oh, you'd love it. Oh my god. Anyways, early 2000s. Um, Kate Hudson, who is
Oh, Goldie Hawn's daughter.
Goldie Hawn's daughter, plays a Dublin 4 girl, like a Dunleary girl, and she sounds like, now my cousins aren't from Dunleary, but a lot of my family are from Southside
Yeah.
Dublin, and she sounds like them. She just sounds like them. Like, it's amazing. It's a really, really, really good. And there's another English actress whose name escapes me now, but also brilliant. And
that's amazing.
So I just feel the issue is not the actors, because actors will do, if they're told they're doing something right, they will stick with it. But if they're told to do something that is inherently disastrously wrong, and they don't have the ear to know, like if I was acting in something and I was being asked, okay, Anne, you're going to be doing a New Hampshire accent, I'd be like, okay, what's that? Because I don't know. You need to teach it to me and I'll do it. But so they're relying, and apparently like Jamie Dornan told her she was doing great. So it's
so that is another sort of problem. This is like it's so problematic. But one of the things, first off, the source material is apparently atrocious. So that's not great. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
The second thing is there's an actual Irish person there going, this is going great. And it is interesting because if you look at all the actors, they're kind of there to not play to their type. You can see Christopher Walken and his agent, and he's like, well, what's your plan here? Am I playing yet another grizzled cop / army man / watch holding enthusiast, all that. No, you play a disgruntled farmer dad kind of guy. All right, okay.
Screaming
in
all
Ireland.
the time.
So wait, I get to go hang out in Ireland for a couple of months. Sound. And I get to not be the grizzled cop lad. Sweet. What about you, Jamie Dornan? Is there any need for me to show my arse? No, there's no need. Grand so. Emily Blunt, what's your plan? You've been starring in basically sci-fi movies for a decade. What are you going to do now? I don't know. Hang out in the field. It's rom-com. Rock on. Sweet. Nothing can go wrong here. She was in another atrocious rom-com called The 5-Year Engagement.
Oh, yeah.
And which is now a very good, like it's quite old now, but what's really interesting about that film is two of the supporting actors, your man from the Guardians of the Galaxy and the lady from Community, she's really funny, Alison Brie.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the thing, I think it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime, what's actually shown now is those two, because their careers have exploded since. Like their careers have gone absolutely supernova. Like, the Guardians of the Galaxy guy, his name, he was in
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. So he's like holding down $1 billion franchise.
Yeah.
Like nobody would have imagined that the chubby idiot from Parks and Recreation would be holding down a superhero franchise.
Exactly.
Literally with the force of his comedic personality. And Alison Brie is, she's been in amazing stuff.
Yeah,
she's a fantastic actor. But but like the two leads are nowhere to be seen in the promo. And I wonder is this going to, like, think about the voice coach, right? So at a certain point, there are moments in your CV that you just kind of have to gloss over. Like, can you imagine the guy who was like the credit risk adjuster for Anglo-Irish Bank in 2007? You know what I mean? Like, he's still around, or she's still around. Like, they're still doing their thing, presumably. But they're like, so I got my first job at HSBC, and and then I moved on to Goldman Sachs, and then I went to the, And so can you imagine, like, what do you do? Oh, I'm an accent coach. Oh, really? What have you done? Well, I did this and I did that, Shakespeare, blah, blah, blah. And then I can't imagine it's not going to be a great moment for the actors.
Possibly not. But then again, does anyone really care apart from us? Is the thing that's like Irish Americans. I had a friend from Canada contact me and said, look, you're the only Irish person I've ever met. I don't know. I can't hear it. And I'm like, sure, of course.
Yeah.
But then, but he was laughing. He just said, like, dear God, like he's in Montreal and he's like seeing this wave of just reaction from
Yeah.
Ireland. And obviously it's caught on, it's caught on
Yeah.
internationally.
Yeah.
But the thing, somebody once said, I realize now to make unbelievably blunt Irish, they dyed her hair red and put muck on her face.
Yeah. So I think the accents are sort of, I think they're a code. And the code, or not a code, but like what's not being said here is that this is a small bit racist, right? It's literally like, it's not just tropey. Do you know what I mean? It's not just tropey. It's like they literally rubbed muck on this woman's face. Like they went, like that's a choice. It's an editorial decision. Somebody went, do you know what would make Emily Blunt more Irish? Actual dirt. Do you know? You think this doesn't make sense? It's one of the world's most beautiful women, and you're supposed to rub a clod of muck in her face. You grand. The red hair, fair enough. Whatever.
Okay. I mean, fairness, she dyed red hair in The Devil Wears Prada, which
she can rock a bit of red hair. Whatever. No, that was an amazing film.
That was her breakout role. She's
very,
incredible.
Very, very, very interesting film, because of course it shows the Devil's the best bit about The Devil Wears Prada is that the nice, caring, genuine person who is embodied by the assistant, played by the Oscar-winning actress who was in Les Miserables, Anne Hathaway. The only thing that you can do to succeed is to destroy your initial personality.
Yeah.
You must literally rewrite yourself like a fucking hard drive into your oppressor. In order to succeed, which is a heartwarming tale that girls all over the world will view as empowering.
They all know that now.
Yes, you also have to be dressed by yet another stereotype. Very, very importantly, theft within the offices is very good.
It's an absolute romp, though. It's a great movie.
There is an interesting. I was reading. I'm aware of how this is going to sound now. So just. I understand this is going to sound incredibly wanky, but I did this, and this is what happened. So I read a book of W.H. Auden poems this weekend, and one of the he's my favorite poet, and I didn't realize, because I bought this thing for £1 back in like 1999. I'm one of those nerds that literally writes down when you buy the book. And I'd thrown it in the back of a bookshelf. Our house is covered in bookshelves, which is another wanky thing to say, but it's true. And I'd forgotten about it, and it literally fell out. The whole they're just books falling out all the time, and it fell out. I hadn't seen it before. And in the book is a whole bunch of limericks that W.H. Auden had clearly put together for the crack.
Yeah,
and it's not his best book. Like, his best book is called September 1940, that's the one with the W.B. Yeats in memory of he became his admirers. It's all this kind of mad Ireland hurt you into poetry. Now Ireland has her weather and her madness still. That kind of shit, right?
Yeah,
anyway, there's limerick, and and it weirdly connects with what we're talking about. So this is a limerick written by W.H. Auden about Ireland.
Okay.
And here's the limerick. A friend who is not an ascetic writes, Ireland, my dear, is magnetic. No snakes, lots of elves who just offer themselves, rather small, but most sympathetic. I mean, right?
Elves,
right? Yeah. But I mean, that's a bit like, well, you're going to write a limerick about Ireland as a sort of an English gentleman. What are you going to do? Elves, bit of mud in the face. It's all the same, right? It's all the same. It's kind of like, I imagine, one other thing, though, is our, when people call the Taoiseach the Prime Minister.
Oh, yeah.
And people go, it's actually the Taoiseach. And people on the BBC are like rolling their eyes going, yes, we're aware, but why should we have to explain that Taoiseach means Prime Minister? You get it. He's the Prime Minister, whatever. And people go, no, his term is Taoiseach, whatever. Really means chief, which is unhelpful, really. When trying to convey sophistication, that you're the chief of a tribe. Anyway, the thing I found most interesting about that is people are like, why do you guys have such a chip on your shoulder about this? And then you kind of go, no, it's us saying that our language and our terms and our views about things have, value, have proprietary, have some sort of, we're not saying that you need to call Boris Johnson the Taoiseach.
No. But respect
we're not
our terminology.
that you apply our terminology to someone else. What we're saying is just apply our terminology to us.
Yeah. Well, you don't call the president of the United States the prime minister. Like that's exactly. A president. They don't have a president in the UK. Do you know?
That would be weird.
But the president is the equivalent of the prime minister of the UK.
Exactly.
Do you know? So it's just, I think it's a bit of respect. It's a funny thing, actually. If ever I want to convey to someone, if they kind of turn around to me and said, well, why do you need feminism? Like, what's the big deal? Like, why don't you just get over it or whatever? And the best example I can give, an Irish man, say specifically, is like, well, how do you feel when somebody says to you, Ireland, it's really England, isn't it? It's the same button gets pressed.
Yeah.
And it's not like, obviously there's a whole lot of nuance and a lot to it. But when someone tells, say, if a woman is trying to assert a bit of equality around something, or something has been passed over, or some issue is just being made glib or flippant by the person with the authority, the best framing for specifically an Irish man to understand what that feels like is if an English person says to you, I mean, you're really English, aren't you? I mean, what's the difference between Ireland and England? It's that same kind of dismissive. It's that same lack of awareness of, well, no, actually, you are the oppressor, and you should cop on and recognize your, what's happened. I was like, can you hear a noise in the background?
Nope.
No. Okay. Sorry. There's an animal hitting a door, but as long as it's not coming through here, that's okay.
No.
Very sophisticated animals knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Hello.
I'm here.
But come here. So
I'm here, so I am.
Come here to me. We could talk all day about everything, Stephen, you and me, but we are trundling gently through a little questionnaire over these number of weeks.
Yes.
They'll probably bring us to Christmas. So, and we do have public answers as well to play with. So, last week, I have the next question. I don't think we need to stay too long on this one, but the question is, what do you dislike most about your appearance?
What do I dislike most about my appearance?
Yeah.
I would say that. When I'm annoyed, or when I'm trying not to show that I'm annoyed or vexed or whatever.
Okay.
My face completely betrays me.
Okay.
Like if I'm when I'm concentrating as well, like I just look really angry. I'm just like I just have a resting annoyed face. And people have said, like, I see Stephen, he's just there, and he just looks so annoyed. What's going on? And Elka's like, and my wife is like, oh, that's just him, this is what he looks like when he's thinking about something. And I think there's that. I think the fact that I will very often, not very often, but recently, quite often, I've been in quite difficult conversations. And I've tried to keep my cool. And my voice won't betray the fact that I'm interior rage man.
Sure.
But my face absolutely will, because I'm bright red. And I'm just like, I'm trying not to be. Yeah, so that would be the thing I most dislike is my lack of control over my big blushing face.
Over your face.
Which stuff?
Yeah, I don't. I feel like this is a thing that gets said a lot. Certainly, it's a conversation had a lot by women. We just focus on what we hate about ourselves physically a lot, and that's not a glib generalization. That's just the truth.
No, that's a fair observation.
And it's annoying. I find when I'm in company and the conversation goes there, I just despair. Even though I partake in it, I'm like, oh, we still do this. And
yeah, because you feel like at least 2 generations of women now have been told, stop looking at beauty magazines. They only make you feel ugly. The system is designed to force you to rate yourself. Maybe don't do that, And then I wonder, is there a difference between words and actions, right? So it's like, oh no, just love the person for inside yourself and all this kind of crap. And then you see like the world actually doesn't really run on those lines. And yeah.
Well, also you're talking about that's one message that's gotten out, but there's still tons of beauty magazines. You still have generations of women raising girls to be conscious of their appearance, and even though I had a fantastic mother who wasn't overly that way, it's still there. Like it would still be in myself and my sisters consciousness way more than my brothers about our looks and about our weight and about things like that. So it's not a question of like, and here I am spending ages on it. And what I think what comes to mind for me is it's funny because I feel it's something I wasn't born with. So my appearance is what I was born with. The thing I don't like is something that is a byproduct of growing old and eating and drinking a certain way, and that is, weight around my belly and that. But that's not really accurate when it comes to my actual. I feel quite lucky. I quite like my face and my body. I quite like how I look, and the stuff I don't like is stuff that I feel is kind of my fault. More of it.
Well, that does feel fair enough. I mean, I think if you were like I hate my dad's nose on my face.
Yeah. Well, look at these.
Yeah.
These responses.
I do have my dad's nose on my face. I don't hate it. I remember years ago going for a haircut in Melbourne, and I have this kind of wave in my hair, and I always know to get my hair cut when I see the wave, and it's literally my dad's wave, and
would you call it a cow's lick?
Yeah, you would, yeah. And I remember going to this hairdresser, and sitting down and having a shop, and he said, "Oh, time for a haircut." I said, "Yes, I the waves always there." So, why is the, he said, "Oh, that's your father's." He said, "You should just learn to accept your dad." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "He's just accept your father." And I was like, "Well, just cut my hair."
Shut up.
I didn't come here for therapy. Cut the goddamn hair. But it really struck me afterwards. He was right. He was absolutely right. And it is interesting then to see the same thing, of course, with my sons.
Of course.
So it is interesting. You do have to accept certain parts of yourself, and you can't really change them if you don't like your dad's nose or whatever. I mean, you might choose cosmetic surgery or whatever, but
you technically could, but do you want to? And I mean, and that's not a comment on anyone who has partaken in any kind of cosmetic surgery, but is this whether or not I suppose that's quite a bold step to take before addressing, well, maybe should I accept?
Yeah, of course.
So what the public said, our response was my weight, my height, nose, wrinkles. My face can't hide my feelings.
Oh.
Another Stephen there. My hair, I can't get it right. Multiple chins and big tummy. My teeth, I'm a little too big around the middle. So a little bit of both of us in there.
Yeah. And you would say like everything, right? I mean, so you got people who don't like their noses, they don't like their wrinkles. I mean, yeah, it's interesting.
So it's so I think let's move on question wise, because I think you and I could get caught into any of these for any length of time. But it is an interesting thing to look at your appearance and go, you might get like that opposite feeling of, actually, you know what? Yeah, I like my hair. I used to like my hair, but now I do. Or I used to like my nose, but now I do. And so which living person do you, or is this me? Do I answer this first now and then you?
Yeah, go for it.
Which living person do you most despise? Well, it's in the ether at the moment, but I would have to say Donald Trump, because I feel he has done horrific damage to the world, horrific damage to society. He has given very poor example to children. I feel people will be suffering for years and years to come because of his behaviors. Apart from the legislation and the other shit he's pulled, he has actually damaged evolution.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm going to broaden it out because spoiler, I think almost everyone who answered this question said Trump.
Really?
So I'm going to say,
okay.
I'm going to say, the person I most despise, like, is a class of person.
Okay.
It's a person they see something and they know it's not right. And they step over it anyway. Or they ignore it anyway. Like, it's that person. I fucking despise them. I despise them. And it's at all levels. So you're like, you see somebody. I saw somebody the other day. I went for a walk. I saw somebody, and there was a toilet roll, like just a toilet roll, like an actual toilet roll.
Yeah.
And it was like in Glenstall Abbey. Somebody just obviously had fallen out of the back of a bag or something, and it was like sodden and destroyed. And this person just literally walked over it. Right. And I was like, you know that's not supposed to be there. There's a bin down the fucking road. Come on. So I picked up this disgusting manky toilet roll and I walked down the street. Now that's not because I'm not saying I'm so amazing because I pick up litter. I do pick up litter. But my point is most people don't. Another kind of when you see something that's just wrong and you don't like say it, you know, or you don't do something about it. It's like, you know, people go, oh my God, this is terrible. Someone should do something. It's like, no, you should do something. You know, I was listening to a Social Democrat TD. Her name is Holly Cairns.
Yes.
And she's from Cork. And I was listening to a podcast that she gave recently. And she was saying, you know, it seems like what animates the woman into politics is just anger, you know. And I think the person I most despise is somebody who like sees a fraud, but doesn't say that's a fraud. And therefore, like, in a certain sense, is a fraud. You know, like, I mean, there's that thing of it's an old idea. It's very, very old. It's an 8,000-year-old idea.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of like, hang on a second, you need to be true to your word.
Yeah.
Have you read a book called The Four Agreements?
No.
So the book, I forget who wrote it, but basically it's an Aztec or Toltec set of principles. And the first is be impeccable with your word. So actually, if you're going to do something, say you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, but the another one is like, you know, always do your best.
Yeah.
And even if your best is crap, if it's your best in the moment, that's fine. There's I forget what the other two are right now, but it'll come to me in a minute. But it's that idea of like, just be consistent.
Right.
You know, I think we'd all be better off if maybe we were a little bit more consistent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the problem is if you follow my logic all the way down, you reach Puritanism, which is not ideal either. You know.
Well, that is well, you know, we like to keep things interesting in this. So Stephen Kinsella advocates Puritanism.
Secret totalitarian, you know.
No, like you said, I had a quick flick through most of the people actually did list Trump as well, and what he stands for. People who hurt children for their pleasure was another one, and I think Katie Hopkins and Jordan Peterson snuck into there as well.
This fella, he's an interesting man, actually, Jordan Peterson. Have you read his stuff?
I've come across him.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is he's a bit like a sort of a thinking person's. He's a thinking person's. I'm terrible with names today. She ran as the presidential candidate for John McCain in 2008.
Oh, Sarah
Palin.
Sarah Palin.
So Sarah Palin, you know, she's the forerunner for Donald Trump, right? So she's, you know, ignorant and you know, believes conspiracies and all this kind of stuff. And Peterson is he's just tapping into this wellspring of anger. Yeah, that you have all these people for whom any kind of equalization or normalization feels like all of their rights are being taken away. You know, and they're able to speak to and weaponize that anger. And I think that people like Peterson, who's now a millionaire based on his book, which says, like, you know, be like a lobster and, you know, make your fucking bed and all this, like he's sort of giving you an intellectual framework for why your sense of aggrievement is correct,
right?
and why, you know, basically you should go out there and do your best to dominate. It's like, well, yeah, I find the message, you know, the message has not gone well in progressive circles, but it plays like the bangers in you know, men's rights activists and stuff like that. Like all things, there's a grain of truth in what he's writing. Problem is, you can take a grain of truth and try to build a castle out of it, right. And that's sort of what he's done. Like I often find this, people who take a nice idea, or even one that's like empirically verified, and then they go, now everything is like that. You know, they don't allow the nuance, the complexity, the context into the situation. Happens all the time. And specifically, if you want to sell a book, you can't. You know, you can't. You have to take a big thing. If you want to sell a lot of books, you've got to take a big thing that everyone experiences, lash a bit of science at it, small bit, not too much, and away you go. Best two examples of that: a best-selling book about sleep. Everyone sleeps, so you want to know a bit more about sleeping?
Yeah.
Read this book. Breathing. Everyone breathes. You know, how to breathe better. You know, again, it's one of those small things you quite like to do. But books about walking. There's a great book called Walking by Erling Kagge, and it's a fun book. But you know, I bought it. In fact, I bought all of them. But the point is that you know, if generalized male anger, you know, there's a lot of that going around too. Sell a lot of books.
Well, it's funny because it's interesting kind of observation I feel I've made. I have no thesis. I have no book written on this, but I think there's a longing in all of us to have been some form of victim of injustice, whatever it is, because then you have something. It's not just to what you call it. If you've been some kind of victim of injustice, then you can march in the streets. You can go, my rights were taken from me. My home was taken from me, whatever it was. And I came out really late in life. I was 31. And suddenly I was like, Jesus, there's all these awful atrocities happening around the world to gay people. And also, oh God, I'm in that camp now. And, you know, and I found myself, you know, needing to kind of protest and work for equal rights around stuff. I didn't particularly love it, but then I kind of did. I was a little bit in love with my own struggle. It was kind of great. And I do feel that there is this longing to be wronged so you can assert your own rights. And unfortunately, it's a really good reaction to have to protect yourself and to advocate for yourself. But unfortunately, if you really have never experienced what it's like to not have full rights, and I'm not saying I'm even in that camp fully as a privileged first world Western woman, white, that I am, then you can kind of look for it. And I've seen it. I've seen it in a lot of different groups, that kind of longing to be oppressed. So you kind of, you know, thing for yourself. So Stephen, this time around, we only got to 2 questions as opposed to last week. We did quite well, so we'll just keep peppering the Proust questionnaire. We're getting through it. We'll pepper through it. It will pepper through another few episodes, but I am conscious of time, and you are a busy man, so we'll leave it there this week. We only got through 2 questions, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. I think one thing we might talk about maybe in the future is the theory of intersectionality. So this, I'm really interested in this.
Okay.
Like, I think this is fascinating. Do you mess about with Google Ngrams?
No.
Okay, so Google Ngrams is basically, they went back through all the books, the old books, whatever, and if you were interested to, it's literally N, like the letter N, and then gram. Okay. What they do is you can type in a word like feminism, and you can see that it wasn't that big a deal in 1820, and now lots and lots of books have the word feminism in it. You can type it into intersectionality, and you know, it's only really a big deal since 1999, Crenshaw's famous paper, and so forth. But what's fascinating is the interplay of different ideas when they become a big deal, and when you can watch ideas sort of get like a peak and then go down, and some of them are longer lasting. So we might do a little bit of a trip through the theory of intersectionality at some point, because it's so interesting.
Yeah.
The idea is you might have one or two constraints on you, right? So it's always relative to some like sort of perfect version of, some homogenous male, white, heterosexual, middle class, but everybody who's not that has something. So you might be gay, you might be disabled, you might be black, you might there's loads of, and the point is that there are multiple constraints sitting on people and at various different times. It's a really interesting theory.
Okay.
And, so people say like it's really important to be feminist and intersectional, for example. And it's a cool theory. No, without some serious problems, by the way. Very, very serious problems. The biggest problem with intersectionality, I gotta go. Sorry, I really have to go.
No worries. But next time.
I love how I left it on a massive cliffhanger. The biggest problem with intersectionality, legged it.
Gotta go. Tune in next week, and Stephen will
tune in next week when Stephen holds forth, or probably forgets that he said it.
Well, until then, Stephen, have a lovely week. I look forward to chatting to you then. Okay, bye.